Hello everybody, my name is Pej. I'm a drug interventionist. I work in the field of addiction and mental health. Today we're going to talk about ketamine. What is ketamine? I'm going to just tell you, ketamine is basically, and it was used as an anesthesia to put down animals and also to help humans as a sedative. It has been abused over the years. It became a kind of a club drug over the years. I'll tell you my own personal experiences. Like during the 90s, in the rave scene, we were experimenting with many different types of drugs, hallucinogens, stimulants. Sometimes we would mix the two. And often people would talk about getting ketamine. And the way that we would get it was, we'd lived in California, Southern California, so we'd go down to Mexico and we would buy it in little vials. And we'd buy steroids and we'd buy ketamine in vials. And we'd bring it back, and somebody learned how to cook it up, and when you would cook it up, it would harden, and then you could break it down into some powder, and we would snort it. Sometimes, there's different ways that we would take ketamine, but I actually knew some people that would intravenously shoot it. Regardless of the fact, ketamine is a different type of high. So, like when we would use it, it would it sort of made you hallucinate and go into an uneven world. You would see like a room as not being whole or half, or you'd end up in different places, or it was kind of like an intergalactic mind warp. Like it was just a lot that was going on. Personally, I didn't really like the way it made me feel, and like when you really go deep into it, we labeled the depth of the high that ketamine we would encounter as a K-hole. And a K-hole is basically K short for ketamine, that could become very dangerous when you're totally like in that K-hole. I was at a rave one time, and there was a guy, and he was a friend of ours, and I was at the time selling K. We had, I'd gotten enough together to where I could start selling it, and so I was like a drug dealer, like a K dealer, and amongst other drugs too. And I gave him some, and he started snorting some, and the next thing you know, he fell on the ground, and he went into these convulsions. And luckily, somebody that was there at the rave was an EMT also, and so he had a stretcher out in his car, and he came and he was giving the guy CPR, and I never really thought how dangerous of a drug that could be until I saw this happen, because the guy was taking large, copious amounts of ketamine, of K, and basically abusing it to get off and get high, and it was a very scary scene. And so obviously it's not recommended. You shouldn't be using it. There's really no way of recreationally using ketamine. I do want to speak on the fact that ketamine is now being used in the mental health field. There are some that are giving, they're doing ketamine therapy. It is supposed to be an answer for helping treat depression for many different people with mental health. I don't really know yet if it's been proven to be highly effective. I do know that I've gone to some mental health facilities, and I know that they are using it quite regularly, and they say that they have a high success rate. And I'm not opposed to that, because if it's being taken in small doses, I do not think that they're taking it in a sense to where the people, the patients that are on the ketamine therapy are actually getting high. I think its main use is to be able to help them be effective in helping them overcome high, intense, manic depressive states and feelings, and just kind of leveling them. So in that sense, perhaps ketamine is effective and can help people. But otherwise, if it's abused like in the drug culture and in the club culture and in the way that people were using it, I do not recommend that people get into ketamine. So if you think that ketamine's not a problem, I'll give an example. This is what I've seen. Like, not a lot of kids are commonly using ketamine or K or going into K holes, although it depends on what kind of culture they're part of. But there was this kid that was 18 years old who I was interacting with probably about 5 years ago, and his drug of choice was ketamine. It's like that's what he was addicted to. That's what he was using, and his parents had called me and they wanted me to coach him and work with him. And he went through treatment first as a result of something that had happened while he was on ketamine. He was basically driving under the influence of ketamine and running red lights and and he got into a major car accident, and then he had to go to treatment, so they sent him to treatment, and that's kind of where I met him and where I met his family. And at that point, when I was working with him, like, he told me he was just fascinated by the feeling of ketamine. He loved being in K-holes, and he said it didn't matter where he was. Didn't matter if he was behind the wheel, didn't matter if he was sitting in a park, didn't matter if he was sitting at home. He just loved to be in that K-hole. So, I think, for some people it feels really good. For me personally, I couldn't stand it. I felt like I turned into a little cat that was meowing in the corner. But this kid was just fascinated by it. And it's so cool to see that after he went through the treatment process and we started working with him, how much he transformed and changed and how he became drug-free. And he went from being 18 to, I just talked to him recently, he's 24 now. He's got 5 years of sobriety, and he really has embraced his sobriety. He got over his whole fascination with ketamine. And if you have any more questions, you can push right there.